Committee, I would like to welcome you all to this international webinar. We are going to talk about Moluccan for Indonesia, sharing knowledge with Moluccan geoscientists, and this event is held by IAGI Maluku and sponsored by Maluku Energi Abadi. Before starting our webinar, I would like to read the ground rules during this event. Okay, first, make sure your computer or PC or phone connect to the internet. Second, moderators fully organize the running of webinar. Third, participants are requested not to activate the video or microphone feature, or the host will set the mute mode to the participant's video or sound. Questions and answers are only open in the discussion session. However, when the webinar takes place, participants can ask questions by using the chat room by mentioning instance _name _question. Or if you have further questions for resource persons after the event, please contact email yagimaluku@gmail.com. So before we start this webinar, I would like to invite everyone to sing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya. All the blessed participants, I would like to invite the chairman of IAGI Maluku for give us the welcoming speech. Mr. Hervin, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Catherine and all. Can you hear me? My voice? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. Honorable Vice President of Indonesian Association of Geologists, Pak Dr. Imam Sadisun. Honorable distinguished speakers for today, we have Pak Dr. William Sabandar and Pak Dr. Justy Siwabessy. Honorable all head of agency and departments who are attending this webinar, esteemed colleagues, all senior geologists or geoscientists of Indonesia and the advisor of IAGI Maluku, esteemed local government agency of Maluku, Geoscience Universities, our moderator for today, Pak Dr. Nugroho, and also the participant of the webinar. Welcome to the international webinar with the DM Moluccan for Indonesia, sharing knowledge with Moluccan geoscientists, conducted by IAGI Komisariat of Maluku. The webinar are focused on the subject of tectonic, economic geology and mineral resources, marine geology, and engineering geology. Now, the last session of this webinar will be presenting two outstanding Moluccan geoscientists, and they will share about the public transportation or MRT and acoustic remote sensing for subseabed mapping. As we know, Jakarta is the capital city of Indonesia, harboring 10 million inhabitants, 1/3 of the population of the greater Jakarta. It is estimated that over 4 million residents of the surrounding greater Jakarta are commute to and from the city each working day. Transport issues have increasingly begun to attract government attention, and it has been foreseen that without a major transportation breakthrough, the city will have complete traffic gridlock by the 2020. As of 2010, public transportation in Jakarta served only 56% of commuter trips. The figure urgently needs to be raised, at the city's 9.5% average annual growth rate of vehicle far exceeds the increase in road length between 2005 and 2010. Until then, public transportation in the city of Jakarta are mainly consist of Transjakarta bus rapid system as the world's longest BRT system with a length of 230 kilometers. KRL commuter line as the Southeast Asia longest electrified metropolitan transit system, and also various types of independent buses to slightly larger minibuses. For this reason, the breakthrough in providing more efficient transportation facilities such as mass rapid transit or MRT need to be made. Of course, the presence of new transportation in Indonesia will bring many benefits, especially in Jakarta. In this session, Dr. William will explain about the technical aspect of engineering design of MRT and how to solve transportation problems in Jakarta. On the other side, it is inevitable that we need to know our marine environment. Indonesia, and as a maritime nation, and Maluku as the biggest island province, requires the development of seabed or underwater mapping technology. Therefore, acoustic remote sensing for the subseabed mapping in deep and or highly turbid water may be a right solution for this. In this session, Dr. Justy Siwabessy will discuss about acoustic remote sensing as the right tool for subseabed mapping in the deep and or highly turbid water. We, IAGI Maluku, do expect that this tool will be more efficient to be implemented in Maluku for subseabed mapping. Hopefully, this session will add to our insight regarding public transportation of or MRT system and acoustic remote sensing for subseabed mapping. In the name of IAGI Maluku, I would like to express my deeply gratitude to Dr. William Sabandar and Dr. Justy Siwabessy for your attendance as a Moluccan Geoscientist for this outstanding webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Helvin. The next one, we will hear the welcoming speech and also to open officially this webinar from Vice President of IAGI, Dr. Imam Sadisun. Time is yours.
Okay, test my voice. Ms. Catherine, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. The Honorable invited speaker today, we have Justy Siwabessy from Geoscientists Australia and Dr. William Sabandar, President Director of MRTG. Salam kenal, Pak. And also the Honorable Dr. Candidate Hervin Samahelu, Chairman of IAGI Maluku Chapter. And I also would like to give a distinguished guest for Pak Professor Jan Sopa. I recognize here also well attended in this webinar, and also Professor Robert Hall. Welcome, Pak. And also all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang and very good day, very good afternoon. It is my honor to be here to welcome you all in this international webinar. And also, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for the committee for giving me the opportunity to give welcoming speech to this webinar. And I think it is very good opportunity on behalf of IAGI headquarters. Allow me to express my pride to IAGI Maluku chapter as the youngest regional chapter in our organization. I think just had the first birthday on the date of September 26. Yeah, even though late, I wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Outstanding, IAGI Maluku chapter looks very active with many valuable and inspiring activities for internal level, national, and also international level as currently being held. And when I look at the proposal of this seminar, it is noted that there are 12 virtual seminar or webinar in many different themes have been held by IAGI Maluku chapter. And it means that there is one seminar in every month. It's very good, I think. Among of this, I had a good opportunity as invited speaker in one of the webinar, which was held about 3 months ago with the theme of kesiapsiagaan mitigasi bencana geologi dan hidrometeorologi in Maluku, di Maluku, ya. Not only webinar, I think, but many various other activity have also been done, such as promoting geoscience through social media, and also fundraising. I also see for several disaster even in Maluku, and also helping the future young geoscientist generation in Maluku to develop their career. Once again, very congratulations on this excellent achievement. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I will not much take your time in this seminar, especially to gain a valuable knowledge and experience from two speakers who are competent in their respective fields of marine geology and engineering geology, as explained before by Pak Hervin. Well, by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, allow me to officially open this third day of international seminar, Moluccan from Indonesia, sharing knowledge with Moluccan geoscientists. Have a nice and a great webinar. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Miss Catherine.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Imam Sadisun. For the best participants, we will get into the core of this webinar. I would like to read the resume of our moderator today. Okay, our moderator today is Dr. Nugroho Hananto, Directorate of Research Vessel Fleet Management, BRIN. He has received his bachelor degree in physics at Institut Teknologi Bandung, master degree at Institut Teknologi Bandung in Oceanography and Atmospheric Science, and taken his doctor degree in Geophysics at Institut de Physique du Globe de Paris, France. The professional experience of Dr. Nugroho Hananto are 2020 until present now, Senior Researcher, Research Center for Deep Sea, Indonesian Institute of Science, 2019 until 2021, the Director, Research Center for Deep Sea, Indonesian Institute of Science, 2021 until recent now, Acting Director, Directorate Research Vessel Fleet Management, National Agency on Research and Innovation.
Ikut dikit orang.
The honors of Dr. Nugroho Hananto are Indonesian American Catholic Frontier of Science Symposium in 2017 and French Alumni Award Region Indonesia in the field of research Indonesia French Institute French Embassy in Indonesia in 2019. Okay, now Dr. Nugroho Hananto here will take over the event. Dr. Nugroho Hananto, time is yours.
Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon, everybody in Indonesia and also abroad. I noticed that several persons scattering from all around the world, around the globe. I would like to welcome Professor Jan Sopa Heluakan, Professor Robert Hall, and also other distinguished, our distinguished chairman of IAGI, Pak Imam Ahmad Sadisun, Om Jeff, and others, Moluccans, Geoscientists. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. And Tabea. In this very good occasion, I would like to invite all of us to enjoy and also celebrate our seminar today, which is we have two distinguished presenters. First is Dr. William Sabandar, and the second will be Dr. Jeff. I forget Jeff from Geoscience Australia. First of all, in our webinar today, Pak William Sabandar will present about the engineering geology, and then follow up by the second presenter, Pak Justy Siwabessy on marine geoscience. I would like first to, before Pak William Sabandar start his presentation, please allow me to read his CV. Pak William is the director for the PT MRT Jakarta since 2016. Before, he was the Energy Minister ESDM, the leader of the Task Force for National Accelerated New Energy Development, Renewable and Energy Conservation. He was also the operational deputy to the management of the reduced emission from the deforestation and land degradation. He was as the chief assistant to the president's working unit for supervision and control of development, or UKP4. He was also the director of corporate affairs ASEAN Secretariat, and since from 2005 to 2009, he is the head of reconstruction for Nias Island, BRR Aceh Nias. We see he has a very long experience in both technical as well as management profession. Pak William will talk about the engineering geology, and I hope we can learn from him of his long experience in engineering geology. Pak William, please, time is yours for about 15 minutes. And afterward, we will have a short break, and then we will have Pak Justy, and then we will have a discussion. For participants who have a question, please just write down in the chat or you can also say it during the discussion. Thank you. Please, Pak William, time is yours.
Thank you very much, Pak Nugroho. Good afternoon, everybody. Be honored. I feel very honored to be invited in this prestigious event of IAGI Maluku chapter. Allow me to express some apology if you might hear some background music in this room, because I was not at the office. either at home. Yeah. I was traveling at the moment and do some transit because my commitment of delivering this speech, yeah, invited by Pa Jeff a few months ago. Yeah. So I stop over and look for a lounge at the airport and find a nice place. So, but you can sometimes also hear some music in the background. Yeah. So apologize for that. Second, because I have the next flight waiting for me in the next 1.5 hours, so I have my team with me here, and Ibu Weni, who is the head of engineering division of MRT Jakarta, present with me here from Jakarta, and she would be able to join all the event until the end, and would be able to address or responding to any questions related to my presentations this afternoon. So she's a very knowledgeable person. She actually the one who prepared my presentation and briefed me this morning about what I'm going to present about this. The third disclaimer I have to confess as well that I'm not a geologist, so a bit nervous talking in front of geologists for sure. Working in geological area, yeah. So I was briefed by some MRT geologists this morning, but I have to acknowledge that my presentations will be very much from engineering perspective, yeah, working with MRT Jakarta, and for sure because I have involved in the management side, yeah, since long time ago. So very much my presentations will be very much also mixed with my management and leadership experience with construction projects. My background was civil engineering, but my PhD was actually in the economic aspect of the transportation. So this is a bit my some of the disclaimer that I have to convey before I started to convey this. But very much I am so glad, I'm happy, and I hope I can share some of my presentations today. Yeah, I came from Maluku for sure. I'm originally from Maluku, and I have for sure some relations, and that's why I have expressed my commitment to attend this this event. Let me start with presentations. Yeah, the slides, please. Mas Ricky Agung from MRT Jakarta also helped me on presenting this. Yes, my presentations today will be able to clear all the area of presentation, so audience can see all the. It will be full with some pictures, yeah, for sure, the experience. So I'm going to talk about the experience of working on the projects, yeah, one of the, I think the most challenging geological project in the country, both in MRT Jakarta Phase 1 and MRT Jakarta Phase 2. Let me start with the network of MRT Jakarta. For those of you who are not familiar with MRT in Jakarta, or those of you who are not from Jakarta, the first slide will tell you about the network of MRT Jakarta. So the first is the south to the north network. Yeah, you see the red color, yeah, network, yeah, from Lebak Bulus to Bundaran HI. This is one of the first network that was start operating in 2019. This is the first metro project in the country. Yeah, after for 30 years in the design projects, Indonesia has finally launched its first metro operation in 2019. And at the moment, if you can see to the north, to Ancol Barat, we are in the progress of constructing the second phase, yeah, which is all will be underground, more challenging than the first phase. So we are hoping that the work of MRT Jakarta will stretch or will have underground and elevated MRT network from the south to the north. This will be 28 kilometers, but by sometimes in 2029. We are in the process of preparing the east-west also corridor, the yellow one, 31 kilometers from the east of Jakarta to the west of Jakarta, and also in the south, you can also have all the corridors in the south. This is all the first phase of MRT Jakarta corridor. Now, let me focus on the north-south corridor from the one that is being operated. Next slide, please. From Lebak Bulus to Ancol Barat. Yeah, this is my presentations today. Yeah, which is in operation. You can see that's 16 kilometers in yellow line. It was in operation from Lebak Bulus to Bundaran HI, and there are also fase 2A from Bundaran HI to Kota and fase 2B to Kota to Ancol Barat. Yeah. So why MRT needed in Jakarta? Because for sure we know the problems of Jakarta, who are very much trapped into one of the most congested city in the world with very much high pollutant. And then when MRT Jakarta was was launched by the presidents, and suddenly you have a new culture in the city. Yeah. You can change the city. The city becomes very much well arranged with the transport. Yeah, people queuing, cleanliness. The most glaring change is actually 100% on-time performance because it's automatic train. Yeah, all the interconnections. We are very much friendly with disability people, yeah, and more friendly city. You can see all the biking, all the like you are in not in Jakarta actually, but if you visit other city. Ricky, can you please move the slide quicker? More friendly city, more another one, please. Another one. Next one, please. So this is until the pandemic hit. Yeah, during the pandemic. Next slide, please. You can see that we have to deal with all the process. Yeah, and we have to introduce all kind of measures that protect pandemic people from getting from COVID-19. Now I'm moving to the more structural part, the station. This is the overview, the station structure general overview. The phase one, the next slide, please. You can see there are two types of MRT Jakarta corridor. The one is we call it elevated sections, yeah. 10 kilometers elevated section, whereby you can see, and then the second one is underground sections. For the elevated sections, you can see this is from ASEAN stations to Lebak Bulus, whereby you can see elevated stations, like for example here Block M, and you can see the platform, and for sure you can see the column. Yeah, when you're familiar with Jakarta, in the Block M, you can see the column, which is actually supports the structures of concourse, and the platform, two-level structures. On the other hand, when you see the structures from MRT, for example, from Senayan to Bundaran HI, they are all actually the structures underground, which is about 20 to 30 meters below the surface. Yeah, and the structure is actually with the entrance. Yeah. And then first layer is the concourse, where people go down first to buy tickets, to do some of their activities, and they want to ride the train. They go another layer, which is platform. So this is actually the structures of the station of MRT Jakarta. Now, in terms of the viaduct and the tunnel, next slide. Yeah, you can see there are two structures. For the elevated structures, you can see the viaduct typical structures, which is the column that support the viaduct, yeah, which have a width of 10 to 11 meters. Yeah, this on top of that, the train will start there. Yeah. And on the tunnel, typical structures you have in the at MRT, yeah, it's actually two parallel tunnels. Yeah, which one you can see the inside diameters is actually 6.05 meters, which is actually already considered the size of the train, yeah, and the size of the people. There is the evacuation roads, all the structures underneath. You can see this is the superstructure, the substructures, and the foundations for the elevated. And then you can see the structures of the typical structure of the tunnel, which actually built parallel. If you go in Sudirman and Tamrin, it's actually 20 to 30 meters. Underneath, you have two big tunnels, which is actually the manage the operations of MRT Jakarta. Now, next, I move to the geotechnical conditions and seismic design concept of MRT phase 1, phase 2. We know all that Jakarta is very vulnerable to disasters like flood, disaster like earthquake, yeah, and that's why we have to really consider the situations of the soil conditions, of the structures conditions when we deal with the constructions. So for phase 1, soil profile, you can see here during the soil investigations, we see here that generally for the phase 1, yeah, this is the phase 1 is actually in the Jalan Sudirman, that from Senayan, yeah, from Patung Pemuda Senayan to Bundaran HI. You can see that generally the soil conditions are diluvium dense sands and cohesive soil along the tunneling line of MRT phase 1 with the amount, the magnitude of NSPT results is actually above 40. So it's actually, we can consider it's quite solid structure. Yeah, you can see here is actually the top line is very much alluvium. Yeah. Cohesive soil, yeah. There is some sandy soil as well, and then you can see underneath alluvium there is a diluvium and cohesive soil as well. So this is the situations of soil conditions, yeah, along the soil profile along the underground station or underground line of MRT Jakarta phase 1. While at phase 2, yeah, we see, yeah, the next slide, please. Phase 2 geological stratigraphy that you see based on our SPT, yeah. Can you move, please, to the next slide? You can see that the condition of the soil is more challenging. Yeah. Generally, the soil condition, yeah, are diluvium, dense sands, and cohesive soil along the tunneling of MRT phase 1 with lower and SPT results below 40, covered with alluvium soil or soft soil at the higher elevation. Yeah. So this is one of the situations. Sorry, salah ini. Before that slide, please. Sorry, this is the situation if you are not controlling your slides and somebody else in different part of the world controlling, and you are in sometimes nowhere, and we have no coordination before. Sorry about that. So this is the slide that I want to see. So you can see, for example, the situations. Yeah, one of the situation in Tamrin station where actually we have sand. Yeah, the quality we have one area which potentially, yeah, potentially creates some kind of liquefactions. So we identified liquefied layers. Yeah. In Tamrin station, yeah, liquefied soil is identified at Tamrin stations, and therefore it requires soil improvement and liquefaction analysis. This is what one of the challenges that we have, and you know, we have the very much concern of North Jakarta as we move to the north is actually the issue of soft soil and the issue of land degradations. Yeah, Jakarta was submerged. Yeah, and the issue of how you deal with the liquefied soils. Yeah, deformations, some buildings. Yeah, you can see now, and with the climate situation, it's exacerbated the situation of Jakarta, because now analysts says in the next 10 or 20 years, Jakarta will be submerged. So MRT Jakarta will need to deal with this. The next slide, you can see this is how we deal with the earthquake, the seismic loading and design requirement. Yeah, seismic loading and design requirement. Yeah, the next slide, which you can see the table. Yeah, okay. How we design. Yeah, using for the second phase, using the standard SNE. Yeah, for tunnel, and also for stations and above ground, we also use SNE 2019. Yeah, and we have two projects requirement in terms of the level of earthquake when we do the design. Level 1 earthquake, we call it operational design earthquake, yeah, which the return period is 100 years. And for the level 2 earthquake, we use a maximum design earthquake with 1,000 or 2,500 years of the return of the earthquake. Yeah. MRT Jakarta was designed with 1,000 maximum design earthquake. So there are category, but I'm not going into more detail for the sake of timing here. Yeah. But this is how we design this process. Next slide is on the station and tunnel analysis. Next slide, yeah, you can see how we make sure during the development, yeah, ground movement and passive dewatering analysis, yeah, we have to make sure when we do some kind of tunneling process, we are not, we can make sure that other buildings, yeah, around our geological process, our tunneling process was not changed, yeah, because for example, the stability of the buildings very much like heritage buildings, old buildings built might be before 1960s, yeah, were very sensitive on the change because of the deformation of the land, and also might be the quality of the foundations during the construction at that time. So we have to make sure that the ground level, groundwater level lower down, yeah, equals zero due to the passive dewatering. Yeah, we cannot avoid the situation there will be the dewatering process because of our construction process, our tunneling process. But we have to make sure that the settlement, yeah, for example, this is in front of my old office, yeah, before I was with the Minister of Energy here, yeah, we have to make sure that the settlement of can be less than 10 millimeters, and this is how we control this with during the construction process. Also, yeah, we can also see the next slide is parallel construction impact on soft soil analysis. Yeah, we have to. This is all the technology that we use. Yeah, now we have building information management, which is using digital systems to analyze, to find out the effect on parallel tunnel construction and the existing ground condition. Yeah, and the analysis results showed that parallel tunnel construction has no impact to one another. So we can do both process of tunneling. Yeah, they are be done next to each other, and they have no impact to one another. But one of the big, very big issue that we have, the next slide, please, Rick. The land subsidence issue in the area of Jakarta Kota. It starts from Harmony to Kota and to Ancol Barat. You have this. when soil condition at the station, you can see, we have to do the modeling of the land subsidence was carried out using consolidations analysis for 100 years interval. The loading of the consolidation analysis was modeled by lowering down the water pressures of the assumed aquifer layer. And then we find out the total settlement of the analysis is 4.3 meters, similar with the yearly land subsidence map. This is what we are the result, and the result shows that tunnel lining and D-wall, diaphragma wall that we developed, differential settlement is showing less than 1 per 1,000. Now, so therefore, it can be concluded that land subsidence in that area, Jakarta Kota, will not cause significant impact to the tunnel and connection with the stations in Tamrin. This is what analysis been done by the engineer of MRT Jakarta. For sure, this is the internal study, which is supported by very much Japanese the analysis in computational engineering. So this is the next phase that I'm moving to the phase 1 station and tunnel constructions. You can see here that's what we are trying to do. The next slide, you can see how the MRT phase 1 underground station constructions. This is the simulation. Can you just move, and how we move in, because we cannot afford to stop the traffic in front of, because this is a very traffic road. So this is how the construction been built. When we build the diaphragma wall, we do excavations and we do the base slab, and then we put the 2 tunnel boring machines, and we would build the platform slab, the concrete slab, and then we top, and then we move again all the traffic back into the normality. This is the build of the stations. Okay, this is the simulations how we build the underground stations of this. The next slide is on the tunneling works of MRT Jakarta, because we use 4 tunnel boring machines to work on the 6 kilometers. There are 12 kilometers actually, because one tunnel is 6 kilometers, another tunnel is 6 kilometers, and we name it. This is the name given by the presidents actually. The Antareja 1, Antareja 2, Mustika Bumi 1, and Mustika Bumi 2. Basically, you can see for Antareja 1, for example, they start from Senayan, the tunneling, go through, and you can see the Antareja 2, the green, from Bundaran to they work from north and day. Both tunnel boring machine met at Setiabudi station. Next slide. In 23 of February, I remember very clearly, that was the history when President Jokowi announced we use the tunnel board. This is actually, there are 2 types, earth pressure balance and slurry pressure balance, but we decide to use, because of the situation of soil condition, which is not too hard, we use earth pressure balance. And this is how urban tunneling. So because predominantly dealing with soft ground, material that often cannot support itself when excavated. So we have stability concern, or for example, at a minimum cosmetic building and ground deformation. Why we have to be very careful when dealing with the process of tunneling. We have to make sure the layers on top of that are actually in the situations. So we are not get into the trouble like you see the situations in pictures. Pictures on your right down. Now, also we are making sure, because the tunnel come from the two directions, yeah, accuracy of the tunneling alignment, yeah. The next slide, you can see how we do the tunneling alignment, yeah. And the next slide, yeah, please move quickly. Phase 1 TBM work activity, yeah. You can see how this is the TBM final breakthrough when President officiate that all the tunnels or phase 1 has been completed, and he announced that all the underground work is done. Now, I think this is my last part, which is actually to create to see how the phase 2, which is more challenging work that we are doing. Let me start to explain. For the phase 2, we are having CP201, CP202, CP203. All will be in tunneling. So we will be tunneling sequence. We work from Mangga Besar and Mangga Besar to Kota, and we have to go down deeper, because you see it along the Harmony. You have river, you have canals, yeah. So you have to build the tunnel even below the canals, yeah. So and then you have a soft soils. We have land subsidence issue. So the strategy of tunneling is much more complicated than the way we have to do this. Might be later Bueni will be able to explain complexities of how we have to manage the phase 2, which is now still deal with some design and some surveys on making sure we handle all the issue of tunneling well. And going through the construction challenges of MRT Jakarta phase 1-2, this is just some work on how protecting of Patung Pemuda during TBM launching, yeah. That is, the Patung Pemuda is actually in the Senayan, yeah. We have to concern that the state has to be supported with an underpinning method during the tunneling works, yeah. And the state shall be monitored 24 hours a day with allowance of 20 millimeters, yeah. So, and then this is something that we have to do. So what we do in protection of Patung the TBM launching was actually we do the support, additional support, yeah. So we are, and this is what we are having, the additional support to support the state on top of the in Patung Pemuda. This is Patung Pemuda. So, and then all the tunnel boring machines go beyond or go below this, below the statue. Yeah. Also, we have to passing through under Canal Banjir Barat. Yeah, if you see in Duku Atas area, we have to TBM was need to go down the river. Yeah, which is below 30 meters. Yeah, the width of the river was 40 meters. So the TBM was carefully controlled by monitoring earth pressure of TBM phase and excavated soil volume. And also some of example close proximity of UOB building, yeah, when we also needs to measures all the buildings next to it. Also, we have to, one of the biggest challenge that might be, you go to the next slide. Next slide. Passing through Patung Selamat Datang, ya. Patung Selamat Datang, you all know. We all know it's in Bundaran Hotel Indonesia, ya. This is unfortunately has not supported very well by a strong foundations, yeah. It's a shallow foundation actually, so we worry very much when we do the tunneling below the Patung Selamat Datang, that will change the form or the stability of the patung, of the statue, because of the shallow foundations, and we a little bit worry about the stability of the land below the statue. So what we need to do is we strengthen the statue, yeah, by additional protecting tilt meter positions, yeah, that we have to go down, yeah, and steel sling, yeah, we have to tie it with steel sling, yeah, and to prevent any movement. And after the completion of tunneling works, yeah, we check again, and luckily, yeah, the movement of Selamat Datang statue can be considered as zero, yeah. So there is a this is the way with this, yeah. Last, I think, but not least, I just want to. That's the challenge of soft soil condition at Tamrin area, the one that we are now dealing with, yeah. How to make sure some silty, some sands, and potential liquefactions, some continuing subsidence, yeah, which recognized in actually in Sarina buildings. In doing so, with deal with soft soil conditions, yeah, and land subsidence, yeah. So the mitigation is actually for sure we have to do the soil improvement. The second one is actually we have to build building monitoring systems, yeah, 24 hours, yeah, with our tools at the moment. We monitor by also putting some measures next to the buildings, and measures if there are movements in terms of construction that we have been doing right now at the Tamrin station, and for sure we have to carefully choose our construction method. So I think that is my presentations so far. Yeah, I hope this can explain how we deal with geological and engineering issues during the construction of both phase 1 and phase 2 of the construction of MRT Jakarta. I will return, but before I return, again, I would like to thank you very much, Pak Nugroho and all the team, Pak Jeff. Yeah, I saw also so many people attending this event. Yeah, and I see Pak Jan as well present before. Thank you very much, and allow me also to say sorry that I cannot join the event until the end, but I will try to listen. Yeah, but later on, might be during the discussion, Bu Weni will represent me to respond if any question arise from the audience. Thank you very much, Iyagi Maluku. Thank you very much, and I return to Pak Nugroho. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak William.
Thank you very much, Pak William Sabandar. Truly very interesting talk, Pak, and also inspiring. Your works in Jakarta is truly inspiring. So, and also considering the difficulties in Jakarta, it will be very, very tough job. And I think we happy and we are so lucky to learn from yourself. And also we truly understand that you are very busy, and then we do hope that you will still with us. But if not, then your staff will with us during that discussion. And before we continue to the Pak Justy Siwabessy, we will have a short break by playing short films from the committee. Please, Pak Hevin Samarewa and Ibu Catherine. Hello, Pak Erwin.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello. Yes.
So,
I think we take a short break now.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
Play the films.
Yeah.
Maluku selama ini kan tertinggal jauh sekali dari Papua, dari mana-mana. Ini akan kita kembalikan biar bisa sejajar dengan provinsi-provinsi lain. Kemiskinan terjadi karena sumber daya alam yang begitu kaya namun tidak terkelola secara maksimal. Visi besar kami adalah Maluku harus terkelola secara jujur, bersih, dan melayani, terjamin dalam kesejahteraan dan berdaulat atas gugusan kepulauan. Ini akan kami berkomitmen untuk bagaimana mensejahterakan masyarakat di seluruh kabupaten kota yang pernah kami sampai dan akan kami kembali. Kami datang bukan untuk dilayani.
Kita berharap UMD ini dengan tata kelola yang baik mampu menghasilkan pendapatan yang cukup berkontribusi kepada pendapatan daerah. Tentunya salah satu caranya harus dengan tata kelola yang baik. PT MEA itu punya harapan besar ke depan. Bagaimana akan menjadi salah satu sumber pendapatan daerah yang akan mensejahterakan tidak hanya di wilayah operasional tapi seluruh wilayah Maluku.
PSKK Migas juga mendorong keterlibatan SDM lokal baik saat fase pembangunan maupun saat proyek operasional Blok Masela. Hal tersebut agar masyarakat Maluku merasakan dampak positif keberadaan proyek Blok Masela.
Baik, terima kasih. Baru saja kita telah. Okay, thank you very much. We already saw a very nice movie, short movies about IAKI Maluku as well as PT Maluku Energi Abadi. I hope this film will give us a broad picture of both IAKI and also PT Maluku Energi Abadi. Now we will listen to the second talk, which will be delivered by Justy Siwabessy. Before he deliver his talk, I would like to read his curriculum vitae. Please, Ibu Catherine. Bung Dr. Justy Siwabessy. He got his Bachelor of Engineering in Marine Engineering from Universitas Patimura, Ambon, Maluku. And then he got his MSc in Physics from UNSW at the Australian Defence Force Academy in 1995 in Canberra. And then in 2002, he got his PhD in Underwater Acoustic and Seabed Mapping from Curtin University, Perth, Western Australia. He is now Marine Acoustic Geoscientist at NEMO Branch Geoscience Australia, Canberra, which is, of course, a very well-known scientific institution in the region. And in 2008, he was the Adjunct Research Fellow of the Center for Marine Science and Technology, Curtin University, Perth, in Perth. And from 2002 to 2008, he was a research associate at the Center for Marine Science and Technology in the Curtin University. In 2016, he got 13 various awards, including the Australia Day Commendation Award from the Australian Transport Safety Bureau for the contribution in the search for MH370. So I think Dr. Justy Siwabessy is very competent to deliver this very interesting topic about the marine geoscience. Please, Dr. Justy Siwabessy, the time is yours.
Thank you very much. I just would like to check a few things. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Pak. We can hear you clearly, nice and clear, loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I'll share my screen. Just double check again. Can you see my screen?
Yes, nice and clear, Pak.
Okay. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Dr. Nugroho. First of all, I would like to thank Yagi Maluku. Just give me a sec. Okay. I would like to thank Yagi Maluku for giving me opportunity to share. Before I start, I love to greet and say a few words in my mother tongue. Selamat sore for basudara semua. Tabiah, beta senang bisa berbagi dengan basudara lewat webinar internasional sore ini. Beta lahir, besar, sekolah, dan sempat kerja di Ambon, di Universitas Patimura, sebelum migrasi ke Australia. Waktu di Ambon, beta tinggal di kompleks dosen di Taman Makor. Hope you enjoy what I'm going to present. Again, I'm Justy Siwabessy from Geoscience Australia in Canberra, the capital of Australia. I must admit that I'm not a geologist, but an acoustic marine scientist surrounded by many geologists at Geoscience Australia. I'm always amazed to geologists, so please bear with me. My apologies for those who attended my previous talk at UNHA's webinar series 2 weeks ago, because what you are going to hear pretty much the same, with some little adjustment to adjust for the audience today. So I deliberately chose this title to help highlight the importance of acoustic remote sensing for seabed mapping. I do not mean to downplay the importance of satellite remote sensing. So honestly, sound, light, electromagnetic are siblings from the same parent, waves. The difference is that the acoustic applies the principle of longitudinal wave, whereas light and electromagnetic waves with the principle of transverse waves. So each has its own advantages, but complements each other when used properly. I divided my talk in 3 parts. The first part is a brief introduction to Geoscience Australia and then proceeds to general knowledge of the seabed mapping. And the second part is the first case study as an example of its use in highly turbid shallow waters. And the last part is the second case study, which emphasizes integrations with other acoustic equipment. Oops. Okay, here we go. Geoscience Australia, or GA, is an important public sector geoscience organization acting as a trusted advisor on geology and geography of Australia by applying science and technology to understand and describe the Earth. So GA consists of 1 corporate and 2 science divisions, one of which being responsible for all things below the ground is called Minerals, Energy, and Groundwater Division. And the other one for all things above the ground is called Place, Space, Communities Division, where I belong. So GA was built on 6 pillars, and 4 of them might be of interest to you. First, building Australia's resource wealth to maximize benefits from our minerals, energy resources, now and into the future, which is this one. And the second one, ensuring Australia's community safety to strengthen our resilience to the impact of hazards. This includes, among others, ongoing real-time monitoring, analysis, and advice on significant earthquakes and potentially tsunami-genic earthquakes to help safeguard Australia and Indian Ocean communities. And the third one is the securing Australia's water resources to optimize and sustain the use of our water resources. Very important, since Australia is the most arid continent on Earth.
Waalaikumsalam.
And lastly, the one that relates to my talk is managing Australia Marine's jurisdiction to support sustainable use of our marine environment. So the area is 2 times larger than the mainland and contribute to 4% of world ocean. So I'm part of a marine team, which is together with Digital Earth Australia team, belongs to National Earth and Marine Observation Branch, known as NEMO. Just remember the Australian movie, Finding Nemo. While Marine team has heavily relied on acoustic remote sensing for most of its works, Digital Earth Australia heavily relied on satellite remote sensing technology. So the Marine team, especially National Seabed Mapping section, where I belong, runs a national program called OCBED. OCBED is a national seabed mapping coordination program for 5 different data types, namely bathymetry, backscatter, multi-beam echo sounder water column, sub-bottom profiles, and sediment samples, as you can see here at the top right corner. So our mission is to improve the awareness, coverage, quality, discoverability, and accessibility of seabed mapping data through coordination and collaboration in Australian region. With a vision by 2030, all available seabed mapping data within the Australian marine estate will be readily and openly available, and new data acquisition will consider the needs of a wide range of users. We are very well known with our motto, collect once, use many times. So satellite remote sensing will be very useful and effective in clear, calm waters. No more than 30 meters, as in the image on the left for Cocos Island. On the right is bathymetry derived from the satellite remote sensing data from shallow parts, especially the atolls, and then superimposed with a global ocean map for deeper parts. However, in highly turbid waters, satellite remote sensing can only reach no more than 12-meter water depth. So that's why, for Darwin Harbour, satellite remote sensing data is not capable, as shown in the image on the left. So, acoustic remote sensing is required to produce the bathymetry as shown in the image on the right. So then what is seabed mapping? We define it as a data that describes the depth, shape, composition, and structure of the seabed and coastline. So it is necessary for explorations and expeditions using platform, such as in this slide, the Research Vessel Investigator, operated by CSIRO, with adequate equipment to provide bathymetry, backscatter, and sub-bottom profile data. And these 3 acoustics data are the focus of my talk today.
Yeah.
So why map? Isn't Google Earth enough? Well, satellite-derived bathymetry provides 5-kilometer grid resolution of ocean floor, meaning we can only see features or objects larger than 5 kilometers across. Or other global maps, such as Itopo 1, the resolution is around 2 kilometers in the equator, or perhaps the ASRTM 15 plus, with a resolution up to 300 meters in the equator. So the following animation made to explain the importance of detailed map for the search of missing aircraft MH370 can help unfold these questions. I happen to be the representative of the Australian government before the search commenced, inspecting the feasibility of sonar and data acquisitions before procedures on the survey vessel Fugro Equator and its survey team. And the task force was led by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the animation.
The search for MH370 required collecting a large amount of new data within the defined search area. Previous maps of the search area were derived from satellite data, only providing an estimate of the ocean depth. These low-resolution maps were not able to safely guide navigation during the underwater search.
Notice the difference between acoustic derived bathymetry and satellite derived bathymetry. So notice also the richest acoustic derived bathymetry in the middle can offer in comparison to satellite derived bathymetry in the either side. So at the top panel in here, it's the curtain image showing from top to bottom, the resolution increase between altimetry derived bathymetry or satellite derived bathymetry, the SRT M15 Plus, and the multi-beam here in the bottom, acquired to assist the search of MH370. You see the difference and how rich the multi-beam derived bathymetry can provide in comparison to this altimetry satellite derived bathymetry data. If you are interested in the bathymetry data around this area for MH370, you can come, you can read the our paper published in Marine Geology in here. So seabed maps are fundamental to these applications, namely habitat mapping, pipeline, tsunami hazard modeling, geohazard, sediment transport, ocean current, charting, coastal modeling, and infrastructure. Right grid resolution is required for each of them. For example, if you are interested in plate tectonic and global ocean models, low resolution map is probably sufficient. However, if regional habitat mapping is of interest, then low resolution map is not enough. Medium resolution map is required. And of course, high resolution map is required for biodiversity monitoring, or navigation, or even infrastructure development application. So most part of Mars have been mapped to a 6-meter grid resolution, and almost all Venus and 100% of the Moon have been mapped to 100 meters. And it's really sad that our ocean is no more than 20% mapped to this detail. So recognizing this issue, the Nippon Foundation and JEPCO, General Bathymetric Chart of the Oceans, launched the Seabed 2030 program. So with fundings from Nippon Foundation, this program aims to facilitate the complete mapping of the global oceans floor by the year 2030. And in fact, this year, the program is formally endorsed as a decade action number 1 of the UN Decade of the Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. I'm sorry that I don't know much the condition and status of the latest seabed mapping coverage in Indonesia, but my advice to the government is that you should seriously consider mapping now from the easiest ones first, such as deep waters in eastern Indonesia, especially in Maluku, and then later on move to the shallow waters in the west, which require longer time to complete. But as for Australia, for your info, its EEZ is the 4th largest in the world, with an area of 8.2 million square kilometers. And to date, 2 million square kilometers have been mapped. So approximately 24% of Australia's EEZ. So due to the COVID-19, the Smith Ocean Institute, the owner of the research vessel Falco, decided to stay in Australian waters because Australia was considered relatively safe in terms of COVID-19. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise for the Australian marine science community. But at the same time, it became very challenging because we were participating and directing expeditions remotely from the mainland. So we were only allowed to physically join the ship on subsequent expeditions from September 2020, but even then with a limited number of personnel. So within the period from February 2020 to May 2021, the research vessel Falco managed to map 200,000 square kilometers, making it contribute to 10% of the total area currently mapped. There was also another advantage successfully introduced, that was fast data access from research vessel Falco via Google Drive. Just for your information, Falco and Google, they are the same family. Data was then processed by the Geoscience Australia team in the Amazon cloud. 2 weeks after completion of the expedition, the bathymetry map was published and accessible to the public via the seabed portal. This is an underwater video from one of the 22 dives of ROV Sebastian on the expedition in September, where limited numbers of personnel can join the ship. The second leg of this expedition was led by my colleague, Dr. Scott Nicol from Geoscience Australia. This dive was live streamed on the Smith Ocean Institute YouTube channel, which allow for citizen science. Since this video is long, I will only play the first 3 minutes. So I will also turn the auto caption, but be mindful
Aktif di mana?
minor errors.
Sudah.
Ya, jaringan.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to day 2 of leg 2 of the Canyon Sea Mountains and Reefs voyage of the Coral Sea and Great Barrier Marine Park. Broadcasting live from RV Falcor. Sunday morning here where we are. Beautiful day. Skies are clear. Seas are calm. And we've just deployed RV Sebastian to a water depth of 1,342 meters. We're quite excited right now because we've dropped the Sebastian right onto some rock outcrop, which we were really crossing our fingers to see. And we've got to better contain ourselves. Let me paint a bit of a picture of where we are and why we're here. So those who were online yesterday would have seen us do a dive in the submarine canyon. We got down to 1,800 meters water depth. That was at the mouth of the canyon, more or less. Today we're in that same canyon, but a bit of a different arm, and we'll come up the slope closer to the Great Barrier Reef by a distance of about 5 kilometres. And as we've come up the slope, well, of course it's shallower, so like I said, we're at 1,340 metres water depth. This part of the canyon, it's narrower. The sides of the canyon wall are a bit steeper. It's assumed what we call very much a V-shaped valley form. And as you can see, we're seeing direct outcrop exposure of the rocks that form this canyon wall system. Yesterday, we saw a little bit of rock. Yesterday, we saw mostly soft sediment plains and sediment drapes, which is fascinating, particularly from a biological point of view, with a lot of burrowing and infill. But we've changed character today in a big way, so far at least is where we've got to right now. These rocks, clearly in colour, you're looking at something which is sort of a charcoal grey to black. But as we've just been zooming around in the last few minutes, we've seen bits of the rock which are different colour there, orangey brown, you might say, it's light grey. And we're currently thinking that the black grey is most likely a sort of a manganese crust, which is very characteristic of deep ocean environments that grows on hard surfaces over geological time. Where we've got the other colour rock, that's most likely a fresh face of the rock, and we're very much interested in seeing that fresh face because it gives us insights into the true properties of the rock. Okay, here's a little bit coming into view on the left right now. There we go, orangey brown, greenish kind of colour. That's as fresh as rock face as you kind of hope to get in this environment. It's beautiful. Let's move along here a little bit. There's a little bit of sand, muddy sand draping it, but it's great exposure still.
Yep. Now I switch to a case study that culminated in a paper published in Marine Geophysical Journal in here, discussing the use of angular backscatter response to model hard seabed in highly turbid water of the inner Darwin Harbour. So we are aware of other methods from other studies using multiple predictive parameters derived from backscatter and bathymetry, such as slope, rugosity, homogeneity, entropy, etc. But the focus here is on demonstrating the utility of angular backscatter response as a dataset on its own, with the following three objectives. First, to introduce the new technique to predict hard seabed using angular backscatter response alone. Two, to produce a continuous map of hard seabed. And the last one is to demonstrate the value of angular backscatter response to characterize seabed in highly turbid waters. So the Darwin Harbour consists of a channel incising two adjacent proterozoic units that are overlain by the sediments, the Whale Tree Metamorphics on the western side and the Borel Creek Formation in the east. So the boundary between these two units is located under the main channel, so in here. So the climate regime is monsoon tropical, and Darwin receives about 1,726 millimeters of rainfall annually. Darwin and Bynoe harbors have a large tidal range with a 7.9 meter maximum tidal range. Tidal currents can reach up to 2 meters per second during a maximum spring tide. So as a result of the tidal energy, Darwin Harbour is considered to be reasonably well mixed homogeneous water body that is naturally turbid but carries low nutrient loads. So I use this animation to make my points on some parameters. So as the vessel is moving back and forth in the parallel lines in the overlapping tracks, the multi-beam sonar emits acoustic pulses widely across and listen for returns at various beam angles.
The bathymetric data gathered during phase 1 of the search used multi-beam sonar equipment mounted on a ship's hull. Multi-beam sonar equipment sends out multiple sound waves that bounce off the sea floor and return to the ship. The delay between sending and receiving a signal provides a measurement of ocean depth. Backscatter data, which provides an indication of how hard the seafloor is, was also acquired during phase 1. The ship collected data in the search area in overlapping lines to systematically capture depth information Overlapping the lines increases confidence in the data.
For each path in here, if you can see, for each angle, and this is for a single thing, we get two measurements, namely a two-way travel time and a voltage. From the two-way travel time, we get the depth, and from the voltage, we get the backscatter strength. So for one ping, as shown here in this simple cartoon, you end up with a series of backscatter values in different angles. So people call these angles incident angle or grazing angle, depending on your reference axis. For instance, vertical axis is your reference, then it's called incident angle, or if it is horizontal, it's called grazing angle. And the response of backscatter as a function of incident angle or grazing angle is called the angular backscatter response curve, as shown in the next slide. So these are examples of angular backscatter response curves, which plot backscatter response as a function of incident angle. And then you may ask questions. Justy, why use angular backscatter response curves? What is so special about them? Well, this slide has actually said it all.
Yeah.
So if you can see in here, this is the model at the top and the actual data at the bottom. Both of them show that they are sediment dependent, which is, this is color in here, this sediment in here, this is the model in here. And also benthic habitat dependent, for instance, like in the actual data showing in here. So you can see the seagrass in here and so forth and so on. So they are actually sediment type dependent and benthic habitat dependent. So they are considered an intrinsic property of the seabed. So hence they can be used as a primary means of seabed characterization. So now look at the response between 20 to 50 degrees. Discrimination within this region, or within that incident angles region, the substrate type is the largest. So discrimination across the substrate types is largest. So that is why people choose the reference incident angle to normalize the backscatter mosaic within this range. And there is no standard or common reference at the moment, and people choose their own to suit their need. So you may ask further questions. How do we produce the angular backscatter response data sets then? Well, let's look first at the processing steps. So since 2008, we have used the in-house CMS TGA MB process backscatter processing software, co-developed with Center for Marine Science and Technology, Curtin University. So prior to moving to Geoscientists Australia, I was quite fortunate to be part of the team that developed this software, which I then continue developing after moving to Geoscientists Australia and propose using it in Geoscientists Australia. So processing steps include basic calculation, as you can see in here, and also TVG module removal and computation of surface scattering coefficients in here, and the removal of angular dependence in here. So the main goal of this toolbox is to produce an equalized, good-looking backscatter mosaic. So now, how do we produce the angular backscatter response dataset? In fact, they are byproduct datasets during the equalization process known as AVG corrections. So the beauty of this toolbox is that it preserves these byproduct angular backscatter response datasets. So on one hand, we love angular backscatter response because it is considered intrinsic property of the seabed. But on the other hand, we hate the effect of the angular backscatter response produced on the backscatter mosaic. If you can see in here, you can see we hate to see the strong return in the middle of your track. That's why we hate the angular backscatter response effect on in our backscatter mosaic. So people hate this one, hate the effect of it, and so they remove from the backscatter mosaic. So for the sake of an equalized, good-looking backscatter mosaic, we have no option but to remove them. So the analogy So this is Photoshop. So, you know, nowadays we have lots of apps. So many apps allow us to make us pretty or handsome on photos. For example, if I have small moles on my face and they become my unique characteristic, people might call me Justy the Mole, for instance. But because I hate them, so I use apps to remove them from my photo to look handsome before I end up uploading to any social media. Yes, I look handsome because of that, because I remove what I hate. But in reality, I have actually removed my unique characteristic. People might not know me anymore, but I used to the mole. Anyway, that's an analogy of it. Anyway, the removal process in backscatter mosaic is well described in this animation. So two things happening here: compute the mean angular response within a sliding window, and eliminate the mean in all pixels within the first half of the sliding window, as you can see there, and resulting in equalized backscatter mosaic like this. I don't know what you say, but to me it looks pretty. It looks handsome. Sorry, it looks handsome. If I can toggle between unequalized and equalized backscatter mosaic, you can see the difference. This is before, or angular dependence backscatter, and this one is the equalized backscatter mosaic. Again and back again. So that's it. So this is the map of Inner Darwin Harbor, which is the study area of this project. Pay attention also to the sediment sampling and video locations in this map here. And this is the multi-beam data that produce a bathymetry map on the left and a backscatter map on the right of 178 square kilometers, which is with a resolution of 1 meter. And this one is density plot of the angular backscatter response curves by product data sets resulted from the mosaic equalization. And this one is sediment samples and video of seabed, which then produce grain size data from the sheath and the laser, as well as video classification data. So both of these data sets are summarized in the ternary diagram on the right in here. So on the left is the backscatter map. The dark colors are high backscatter values associated with the harder seabed, and light colors are low backscatter values associated with the softer seabed. You may notice a pattern in the backscatter image on the left, and the box plot on the right confirms the pattern between backscatter and geomorphology. Plains are associated with the low backscatter values, as you can see in here, and banks are associated with the highest backscatter value. Interesting to note that the sand veneer has a significant high backscatter response, as you can see in here. The sand veneer is interesting phenomena where thin soft sand layers cover the hard substrate, causing a mismatch between video and acoustic classification. Video classify as sand with the expectation of low backscatter values for soft sand, but in fact, the backscatter values are as high as hard bottom. So what is detected by acoustic is deeper, penetrated below these thin, soft sand layers and scattered back by hard substrate underneath, resulting in high backscatter returns. So usually, biota that grow become the determinant because they need solid foundation to survive. However, sometimes there are no biota, making it complex. So additional acoustic data is needed, which I will show you later. So on the left is an image showing the Wentworth grain size category overlaid into the backscatter mosaic. So the box plot on the right suggests a positive relationship between backscatter and the grain size. So you can see there an increase in the backscatter value with an increase in grain size. This actually reaffirms the theory of the relationship between backscatter and sediment grain size. So how do we use angular backscatter response datasets for seabed characterization? Well, we use Kolmogorov-Smirnov goodness of fit. So we extracted full angular extents from 0 to 7 degrees incident angle, as shown in this density plot. We then extracted and computed the average angular backscatter response for hard seabed from representative location identified from video. This reference angular backscatter response, shown as a black line here, so this one is actually reference angular backscatter response, was then compared and tested against the null hypothesis to all angular backscatter response datasets, resulting in the probability value of hard seabed and binary datasets of null hypothesis, as shown in the next slides in here. So this one is probability of hard seabed, and we call it p-hard. So here is the p-hard map, complete with video categories. So the result shows that the distribution is patchy, and we are happy to see that it predicts correctly the known areas such as banks marked in the map. We also observe two types of veneer causing discrepancy between the video and acoustic categories. The first one, as I mentioned earlier, sand veneer, shown as green star, identified as soft video class, hard acoustic class. And the second one is mud veneer, shown as yellow stars, identified as hard video class, soft acoustic class. So, and this one is map of binary data of the null hypothesis, which becomes a map of hard and not hard, which is soft seabed areas. Because we do not actually predict soft, we predict hard, so hard and not hard. And we assume that not hard is soft. So there seems to be a quite consistent pattern between backscatter and bathymetry, especially geomorphology. So let's look at bathymetry. Let's look of interesting profiles identified in this area, as shown in this line in here. So it actually starts from more elevated feature in the west side of the harbor to the deep channel in here, then over the ridge in here, hopefully you can see, and then finally ends at the sandy plain in the east in here. If you see the backscatter and p-hard profiles confirm that the more elevated feature in the west in here and the ridges in here are hard seabed, while channels are softer and sandy plains are the softest. But also notice an anomaly where the high backscatter and p-hard values are high in here, as high as ridges at the end of sandy plain close to the shore in here, due to sand veneer phenomena. So therefore, additional information from other acoustic equipment is needed. I'll show you in the next case study. So these slides show box plot of backscatter, p-hard, and depth grouped into geomorphic features. So based on t-test statistics, backscatter is significantly different for the two video categories. And similarly, p-hard is also significantly different for the two video categories. But depth, unfortunately not. Depth not, on the other hand, is not. Accuracy assessments was conducted on the reference data taken from the original datasets that has not been used as training data. So two independent accuracy measures were used, namely the overall accuracy derived from the confusion matrix and performance test based on area under the curve statistics. And you can see there, the overall accuracy is 0.75, and the AUC performance accuracy is 0.79. It's not bad. In conclusion, we have successfully demonstrated that the value of backscatter product to produce spatial distribution map of seabed hardness over large areas. We are confident to reaffirmed that angular backscatter response data provide more information than single normalized backscatter values. So making use of full angular backscatter response preserve the acoustic properties of the seabed and can successfully delineate hard from soft seabed. This is an infallible technique for such high turbidity, high current environments where other applications can be limited, costly, and risky. Lastly, we have reaffirmed the strong positive relationship between backscatter products and seabed hardness. And if you are interested in multispectral-like approach, read our publications in Journal of Geophysical Research, as shown in this slide in here. So now I turn to the second case study, which is actually a continuation of the previous study, which is summarized in the report shown in the lower left corner on this slide in here. This program was funded by the INPEX operated ICTIS LNG project to the Northern Territory government. In this talk, I only focus on small things, only focusing on geomorphology, backscatter, and salt bottom profile. So this project, as I said before, was a collaboration between GA, AIMS, and NT government. The funds came from INPEX operated ICTIS LNG project. So basically the ICTIS block, and co-investment from collaborators. So the objective was to map the seabed between Greater Darwin Harbour region and collect representative biophysical and geochemical samples. And all the information acquired from this project helped support management of shallow marine ecosystems. So the data collected from this project included high-resolution multi-beam bathymetry and backscatter datasets, probably the largest high-resolution multi-beam bathymetry and backscatter grids in a microtidal environment in Australia. And there was an increase from 178 to 1,978 square kilometers, around 11 times increase. And 29 sub-bottom profiles, mainly in binary regions. Sadly, we only collected in the binary region, but that's all we can do. And thirdly, physical and biochemistry samples were also collected. So in the next 6 slides, I will highlight some interesting bathymetry features observed from this study. So this one, as seen here, is a complex hard grounds. And the second one is bed forms and storm deposit, as shown here in this slide. The following one gives an indication of the presence of the paleo channels in here, as you can see here. The fourth one is my favorite. Various types of sand waves with unique characteristics were identified or were evident in the Outer Darwin Harbour. So look at these linear, dendritic, and sinuous sand waves. They're beautiful. So the asymmetric appearance and orientation of these sand waves actually suggest that the likely flow directions at the seabed is from north to south. This one is hummock, commonly found in northern Australia. The first time I saw this, I spontaneously called it chicken skin, which then became the nickname for hummock by our team. So if you can see in here, the mounds commonly have diameters of 10 to 25 meters, rising from between 15 to 45 centimeters above the surrounding seabed. And the distance between mounds is approximately around 30 meters or more, giving the seabed a dimpled appearance. The backscatter values indicate that the mounds have a slightly weaker backscatter response than the surrounding seabed. And the last one is unique. Is not unique, but what I'm trying to say is quite interesting, because even though the features are plain in here, and relatively flat and smooth and featureless. They have non-uniform backscatter response, as you can see in here, even though that's just plain and smooth, flat, but the backscatter indicates you have a strong backscatter in here and a soft strong and low backscatter in this area in here. So that indicates harder and softer. So it's quite distinct in here. So while the other one in here highlights the existence of the pipelines and its surrounding, which have their own characteristic as well. So these pipelines are the LNG pipelines from the Ichthys block operated by Inpex to Darwin. So 890 kilometers long. So this pipeline approximately 1 meter above the surrounding seabed and have high backscatter response. If you can see in here, they act as a barrier to sediment transport, as seen by the lower backscatter response in this side of the pipeline in here. So this is actually 2 pipeline in here. So see, this one is lower. So it's likely indicating the seabed transportation, seabed sediment transport being blocked by the pipeline. So Rachel Nansen, my colleague and co-author, has been actively involved in the National Geomorphology Working Group, as well as European Geomorphology Working Group, to develop standard classification scheme and automation. She initially applied to Perth Canyon datasets and adopted a two-part classification approach. Firstly, she actually mapped seafloor morphology with example in this table. So while provinces and surfaces are 100% coverage and never overlapping, features are not, and they can be overlapping too. And secondly, she defined seabed geomorphology. Initial focus on Perth Canyon, as I said before, was on slope to rise provinces, while an automated process was used for mapping surfaces, a manual process was used for identifying features. And the target provinces and surfaces are shown within the black rectangles in this slide. Georgie, co-author, and also my previous colleague, because now she moved to US, taking up a postdoc in one of the universities there, applied the same approach to shallow Darwin and Bano Harbour regions to extend to the shelf province. The area has complex and subtle bathymetry, and so an automated mapping approach is needed to map target features such as ridges, channels, and depressions of varying scales. So, and target provinces, surfaces, and features are shown in the within red rectangles in this slide. This slide shows all features on bathymetry mapped by using geomorphology. I only show the features, as you can see in here. And I will zoom into 3 different areas, A, B, and C, in the next three slides. So along the profile line, we can see broad ridge about 5 meters high in the west side, and ridge about 2 meters high, and ridge crest in the east side in here. In this profile line, broad ridges appears in both ends of the profile line, with a channel in between. And inside the channel, there are also ridge and ridge crest. And this profile line, ridge crest appear varying from 0.5 to 3 meters high. So what is shown here on the left is a complete backscatter map with a track line where subbottom profiles were recorded in here. And I'm going to focus on these 2 areas in here. So, and on the right-hand side in here is just the bathymetry of these 2 areas, C and B. So the question is now, can backscatter and subbottom profile provide more insights? So in the next 2 slides, you'll see what backscatter and subbottom can offer in these two areas. So what is now shown is backscatter map that helps provide an indication of seabed hardness. So soft mud basin in blue in here. So this is soft, so mud basin in blue, associated with the low backscatter values, while dune and hard seabed in red in here, associated with high backscatter values. So high, low backscatter values are related to hard, soft seabed types. So in the mud basin along this line, we only know there are higher backscatter values somewhere within that mud basin, indicating hard surfaces in some areas. And that's it, nothing more. We don't know what it is, why it is, and how it got there. The subbottom profile provides extra information that helps unreveal the mystery. So it turns out that behind these, there are relic dunes covered by accumulation of sediment that form this mud basin. So if you can see in here, so that's actually related to these things in here, and this is the accumulation of the sediment in here. And therefore, we also become confident of its connectivity beyond the mud basin on the lower. So in here, it's probably the connection from here to there, and that's there, and so on. So I'm going to show you, oh, sorry, coming back to this one. Okay. This is just a full extent of the subbottom. And as you can see here, it's only this area where I showed you before, but this is the whole subbottom profiles from that line. It's just from that particular line. As you can see in here, that's the accumulation of sediment along in here. And you can see also in here, the channel was filled, is the old channel was filled, and in one of the areas is as deep as 20 meters from the seabed. In the following example, the discrepancy between backscatter and video is inevitable. So there is no, if you can see in here, between this one and that one, there is no difference in backscatter value. They are the same. So as I said earlier, additional acoustic information are required as well to help reconcile the discrepancy. So thanks to subbottom profile, we know now there is an extension of hard substrate buried beneath the sand veneer that in turn amplifies the acoustic return, resulting in the high backscatter values. If you can see in here, is the extension of the hard substrate underneath, and that's why it acts as an amplifier to amplify, not amplifying the acoustic returns. So even though you see in the video as a soft sediment, and you expect that's going to be low backscatter, but because just underneath that you have the hard substrate, it actually amplifies the backscatter. I'll show you again the full extent of that line. As you can see here, this is where I said that it's very deep channel where filled with the sediments in here. It's around 20 meters, as I said. So what can we say? So backscatter and subbottom insights have implications for sediment transport, including composition, volume, and direction, and implications for potential habitat, hard versus soft substrate, as well as implications for quaternary evolution of the region. So Darwin and Bino Harbor region is a drowned landscape. The region was without marine water since the last glacial maximum and remained dried up to some 10 to 11,000 years ago. And for the majority of this time, sea level was insufficiently high for Darwin Harbour to be an estuary. Thus, Darwin Harbour is drowned river valley, which has been exposed to erosion and weathering. So estuarine conditions similar to present what we can see now were established some 7,000 to 8,000 years ago. And non-marine dunes dated 10,000 years were identified by David Williams, shown by the black arrow in this slide in here. So in the next animation, we will see the succession of post-glacial sea level rise over time from some 10,000 years ago to present time. So this one is 30 meters below the current sea level, occurring 9,000 years ago. And this one is 20 meters below the current sea level, occurring 8,500 years ago. And this one, 10 meters below the current sea level, occurring 8,000 years ago, according to the geologists. And finally, the modern one, the current sea level, were all submerged under the water, and you see nothing unless you map. So in conclusion, data collected in Darwin and Bino harbors reveal a variety of environments and habitats. GAC4 morphology classification and automated mapping approach maximize the potential of high resolution datasets. And lastly, integration multi-beam and sub-bottom profile data increase our depth of knowledge of dynamic of seafloor environment, subsurface structure, the habitat, and geological evolution of the seabed. So the data that I display here can be accessed free of charge from this link in here. If you want to get some data, including the one that MH370, or if you want, any other data, you can go to OCBED portal in here, and then you can download from there, or any other information in there, like guidelines or multi-beam guidelines, or even the quality insurance toolbox software that we just currently develop. You can go there and find it in there. And if you are interested in satellite remote sensing data, also free of charge, you can download from this second link in here. And if you want to know more about Geoscience Australia, for other geoscience matters, including minerals, energy, anything that you want to find related to geoscience, you can access from the last link in here, including the data. If you cannot find in here, you can find in here. But the difference between this one and that one is that this one we use the e-catalog. So unless you know the keywords, you won't find it. Whereas in here, it's very, very interactive, where you can just go and click. And that's all. And I should stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bung Jeff. Very comprehensive talks and very interesting findings and experiments, and also methods development that we have done so far. Thank you very much, Bung Jeff. Dear participants, I would like to welcome the Honorable His Excellency Ambassador Samuel Sampson from Serbia Embassy to these webinars. I would like to welcome all participants to ask questions and discussion to our two presenters this afternoon. I'm sorry that Pak William Sabandar already left, but we have Ibu Weni as his representative. And as Pak William mentioned before, Ibu Weni is very competent to represent him in the responding to your question, if any. Please, we have in chat room, we have question from Om Jeff. Probably Om Jeff, you'd like to pose the question directly to our presenters, Om Jeff, please.
Thank you, Pak Nugroho.
Question for William Sabandar. Going on phase 2 MRT, it seems to me more complicated with subsidence level and more complex geology. So why do you go underground? Why not? What's the reason why you go underground rather than overground on that? And the second part of the question is Jakarta the only place where built MRT on a diluvial soil or lithology? Thank you. Pak William's not here, but maybe it's Ibu Weni. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Ibu Weni, please. Time is yours.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you, Mr. Jeff, and also Pak Nugroho. So I will representing Pak William to have this discussion. So your question is going on the phase 2 MRT, which is the area is more on the risk of subsidence and so. Then why we are going underground? Yeah. The reason is that going on the northern part of Jakarta is also we have the more complex and narrower situation of buildings nearby. So the government will also would like to have to have a more aesthetical areas in the northern part. There are very much heritage areas, heritage buildings in the area. So that's why we are going underground for the phase 2 to the northern part. Although the soil situation is quite risky, but we have also got some mitigation plan to solve the issues of land subsidence and also the issues of soft soil. In phase 2, we are looking to use another technology, the mixed type of TBM, so that we can cater the mitigations for those soft soils area to the northern part. And the next question is it only MRT, the one that constructing in the lithium area? Is it Pak Jeff? Maybe if my
yes, it's Jakarta the only one, or other places in the world doing MRT on alluvial.
I see. Well, basically, yes. Although in other countries, in other cities, it will be quite variative. For example, the Malaysian Kuala Lumpur project, their soil is actually a kind of a mix of a mountain rock soil, but they still construct with using the TBM machine. And more or less, also in the Singapore, they are using the land type is more to the marine type of sand. So the characteristic is also different with Jakarta. But Jakarta soil is they said for example, we have experienced even very little obstructive or very little or very small bad conditions in the area, and we have very limited, very small sinkhole. Is a very small sinkhole, but all along the way when we construct the tunneling in the phase 1 area, it's all good. So Jakarta area is they say it's quite good to construct the tunneling works. Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Weni and Pak Jeff. I'd like to invite other questions from the floor, please. If not, we have another question from Jeff to Pak Justy Siwabessy. If there's no other question, then please, Pak Jeff, would you please to ask your question, to pose your question directly to Bung Justy, please.
Thank you, Pak Nugroho. Sorry, it seems like it's only me question asking.
Oh, to myself.
Yeah, that's okay. Question for both Bung Justy and Pak Nugroho, really. Bung Justy, what's the maximum depth of this multi-beam acoustic seabed mapping? I mean, in terms of water depth, how deep can you go? What's your maximum resolution, and what's roughly the cost per maybe kilometer square? And for Pak Nugroho, do we have in Indonesia? Do we have such ships that can do multi-beam acoustic seabed mapping? And if not, can we cooperate with others such as Geoscientists Australia? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Please, Bung Justy.
Thank you, Bung Jeff. Thank you, Pak Nugroho. It depends. I think there are a number of different multi-beam systems according to water depth. So we have shallow multi-beam system that operates up to say 200 meters, for instance. But you also have the mid-water system, which is 710, for instance. But you also have the deep water system that operates to the deepest ocean of the world. So there is no limitation in terms of the multi-beam, depending on what system you use. So because of the penetration by the seawater, then you may have to choose a different frequency. For instance, like in the shallow water, you have the very high frequencies operating in the shallow water, which is typically 300 kilohertz, or sometimes, for instance, you can have like 400 kilohertz, which is very high resolution in terms of vertical resolution. But if you, for the mid water, you then go to the medium range frequency, and the deep water, for instance, like EM 120 or 122, which is for the Kongsberg system, is 12 kilohertz. So your vertical resolution becoming a bit less, but still okay. It's still okay. It's still worth than doing any indirect measurements, for instance, like from satellite derived or any other devices. So in terms of the grid size, the grid size is dependent on the water depth. The deeper the water, the wider the grid size. For instance, it's just like a cone. So if you go deeper, your footprint is becoming bigger. So that means your grid size becoming bigger. But at the moment, for instance, like in the MH370, we can go as high as 100 meters for water depth. I think more than 2,000, I guess, meters. So yeah, that's all we can do. And I think Indonesia multi-beam is not something that luxury now. It was luxury for some time, a decade ago, for instance, but it's not anymore. And I'm sure, like Barunajaya, like in Pak Nugroho fleet, they should have one. Is that correct, Pak Nugroho? I'll hand it back to you.
Yes, Bung. Thank you very much. Actually, we have several. As you mentioned, we have a deep multi-beam echo sounders with 2 degree resolution. And it's capable to map until full depth ocean, 11,000 meters. And then we have EM304 for mid-range water depth and up to 8,000 meters. Other things, we also have shallower. We have the portable Wärtsilä system up to 2,000 meters. And then Titan Rezone for 500 meters. So I think we have a quite good range of of a multi-beam echo sounder, and we can usually we do it to map sea floors in our region, especially in the deep water. And for this year, we will mobilize one vessel to map around Ambon, multi-beam bathymetry as well as seismic reflection to trace the possibility of the old landslides that create tsunami. We hope in November to December. We hope so, right? Thank you, Pak Justy and Jeff. Any other question from the floor? I saw Professor Robert Hall turn on the videos. Would you please, do you have a question to our two distinguished presenters? Please, Professor. Hello?
We can't hear you, Robert. You're on mute, I think.
Hello, Robert.
Robert, we can't hear you.
I think he's on the mute, I think, Jeff.
Yes,
or perhaps
somehow
there's some...
we can't hear you. Maybe your Zoom's on mute, but maybe your computer's on mute.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Robert.
Can you type it, maybe?
Yes. I don't know what happened, Robert, but it seems that we cannot hear you.
Oh, okay.
Somehow we can't hear you, Robert.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Robert. So for other attendees, while we are waiting for Professor Robert, I'm sorry. sorry. Or perhaps you can type your question. Or if not, then, the other attendees, please, if you have still question to our two distinguished presenters. If not, I have one for Ibu Weni.
Okay, there's a question from Robert there. What is the minimum depth for the multi-beam survey?
Okay, please, Pak Justy. Professor Robert.
Sorry, say it again, Bung Jeff.
Professor Robert request
from Robert. Sorry.
Sorry, please, Pak Jeff, if you.
Okay, it's question from Robert Hall. What is the minimum depth for the multi-beam surveys? Minimum depth.
The minimum. Okay, the minimum one. I think it's the minimum one depending on the focus of the multi-beam system. So if they can actually go as shallow as possible, but the only problem with the shallow water is that because your parallel lines, your spacing is becoming so narrow that it's not effective anymore. So it can penetrate even like you can sense around less than 5 meters. Yes, you can. But then your parallel line is becoming so narrow that it's not become effective anymore. And the LiDAR or even the satellite derived bathymetry is becoming more effective in those areas.
Thank you, Bung Justy. Other question from the floor, please? If not, I have one for Ibu Weni. We have Olaf. Pak Olaf by Rizal. Please, Pak Olaf.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon to everybody.
Probably you can turn on your camera, please.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Could you see me clearly? Yeah. Hi.
Yes, we can see you.
All right.
A bit dark, but it's okay. There's a bad light.
Okay. Myself, my name. Just I introduce myself. Olaf. I think Bung Justy or Justy knew me very well because we are We are neighbors in Ambon. Okay, I'm also a background from indirectly. I'm from shipping background. At the moment, I'm in Singapore working at one of the ship management company. So I just have a question to Bung Justy about the navigations, bathymetric. You are talking about the satellite remote sensing device or data. Do you have more details on that, or can we have tools in case we have a grounding on the shipping channel around the world? So as a ship management company, we could just reach you, not only in Singapore, but most probably in Indonesia, to support us. Of course, there's some money. I would like to know how much that, not in details, but how you go about it. I think that's about all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula. Please, Bung Justy.
I don't know to answer that question because I don't think there is such things like from the satellite remote sensing arm to provide that information. But in terms of the positioning from GPS, I think that's not my my area of expertise. But my colleague in Geoscience Australia, we work together worldwide to actually improve the accuracy for the positioning system, especially for our here in Australia for farmers to get the precise position, you know, for farmers to seed or to do some to do some farming things. So I don't know if I answer your questions, but there's no such things now. So I think at the moment, what I do know is that people from around the world, especially in those area, they're coming, for instance, like from they come to Geoscience Australia looking for data, and they will produce the high resolution. They compile all the data, and then they would like to put that into the say, for instance, like in the navigation chart, and not navigation chart, but normally it's in the recreational ecosounder to provide maps. But in terms of the charting and for navigation, then we rely only on the Navy or a show to do so. So probably I can't answer your question. Sorry, but that's all I know.
Thank you, Bung Justy. Bung Olaf, I think the description of Bung Justy would be enough, I think. Other attendees, other question from the floor, please, to both Ibu Weni or Pak Justy, or Bung Justy. I call Bung Justy, right, Bung? Please, everybody, please the floor.
Pak, no, if you
we still have
please, no, I mean,
times here about 5-10 minutes, and
yeah,
also because this
no.
is important meeting.
So
then we can do yes, please.
But no, I think
please, Bu Hedwin.
No, I mean we have no, I learned a bit on the question in the chat room. So if you don't mind, one or two questions here, I see that probably suggestion also. I think better you can ask the question to, or probably suggestion to the both Pak Justy and Ibu Weni.
Okay, so from the chat, I think we already what you call that we already answer and discuss the question in the chat room, because it's from Pak Jeff to Pak William Sabandar, which already been stuff. So yeah, I think I have one. Ibu Marjorie Waisal, Bapak Marjorie Waisal, please, Ibu or Bapak, please turn on your video so we can.
Hi.
Okay, Ibu Marjorie, please.
Marjorie is a lady's name, Pak.
Okay.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm a friend of Justy as well. I'm a sister of Olaf, so we are all childhood friends. Live in the same complex. So anyway, this question goes to Ibu Weni. Ibu Weni, is there any plan for MRT to go to Tangerang area, and then when will you implement that? Because I'm living in a suburban area in Bumi Serpong Damai. I use a lot of commuter lines, so I'm just wondering if there any plan for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ibu Marjorie. Please, Ibu Weni. This is very good question, and actually, we are hoping that the lines goes to Serpong, right, and other suburbs. Please, Ibu Weni.
Yes, correct, Ibu Marjorie. Yes, there have been several studies is now undergo with the Ministry of Transport, Ibu, looking on the the metro line extending from our Lebak Bulus in the southern part of Jakarta to the Tangerang Selatan. Yeah, most of it will be the Tangerang Selatan area, and hopefully it will end up in around BSD, Bumi Serpong. But it's still now ongoing feasibility study. So hopefully we can implement this maybe around 3 to 5 liters from now, Ibu.
Okay, we're looking forward for that, Ibu Weni. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ibu. Pak Nugroho, I think you're still on mute.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Ibu Weni, of your reply. The question of Ibu Marjorie also represent the question from most of us. Thank you, Ibu. Other attendees, please, the floor. Do you have still any question to our both very excellent presenters? If not, Ibu Weni, I have one question. So several days back, and also it's mentioned by the U.S. President, Mr. Joe Biden, that Jakarta is under subsidence. So how PT MRT responds to that subsidence issues in the construction of the MRT? Thank you, Bu.
Yeah.
Please, Ibu.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Pak Nugroho. Maybe first of all, before going to the land subsidence issue, I would like to explain about how MRT caters or mitigate with the flood issues. Yeah. So in the system of MRT itself, we have implemented a layering of a protection of the MRT infrastructure. First of all, by having we always have we always have several steps in the entrances to go before going down to the underground site. So this is the first protection from the flood nearby. And second of all, we also have the sump pit in the area. So if let's say there is a big flood coming, yeah, to the station, to the underground station specifically, then this water will be collected in the sump pit and then will be pumped out in some manner. There's also one thing that we also implement the floodgate. So when there is a major rainfall coming, and when there is when the water has reached to the, let's say, the first step of the entrances, then we will install the floodgate in front of our entrances. So by our system, we also have protect our underground stations from the flood risks. Yeah. Second of all, yes, when it comes to the land subsidence issue, north, and this is the big, we can say it's quite a big risk that we have going to the north side. We have also gathered and collect some information on the land subsidence. We have also looked on the maps of Jakarta when we say that there is a land subsidence in how many how big is it, yeah, like how many centimeters per year. And as explained by Pak William before, also in the Tamrin area, we have simulate this and with the software, and it comes to around 4 meters in total. And based on our structure performance, we still can look on the and confirm that our structure performance is still safe enough. If let's say the settlement goes at the same time, yeah, about 4 meters, but this will be around 100 years on all along the lifetime of the structure itself. So by performance, we have simulated and we have conduct some calculations, analysis, and we confirm that the performance is still okay in terms of structure. But of course, there is another risk, which is the climate change itself. That also at this moment we are still gathering the information. We are collecting the information, and also by starting from today and next year, we will also conduct a study, comprehensive study, to check and to evaluate in the future how is the land subsidence risks and the climate change, especially the climate change risks that is happening now, and what is the trend in the future, let's say for 50 years or 100 years later. We have several cases in metros, such as in New York and in China, just about because especially in New York, their system is actually 100 years old. So it is time for them to evaluate their structure, their system, the infrastructure. At this moment, we heard that they are now doing some revitalization, some rehabilitation, but unfortunately the climate change also comes too fast. So this kind of rainfall, water rainfall, has not been assessed by them at the moment. So their system is not catering this. It doesn't mitigate this situation, and the flood happens in the New York case. Yeah. But now, and also Pak William is telling us that we need to look this further and should be carefully analyzing the situation, because we are not talking about next year, we are not talking about 5 years later, but this will happen perhaps in 100 years or in 50 years, in the lifetime of the MRT and the metro itself. So this climate change is quite real. We need to look and evaluate, mitigate our system right now, to evaluate, to check on this. Yeah, so MRT will conduct some study about this, Pak Nugroho.
Thank you.